Now that I've made my explanation video on the Mob of the Dead intro cutscene, which if you guys haven't seen yet, it'll be on screen right now, but now it's time to leave the realm of explanations and enter into the realm of theories, because that's just what we all love. And the theory we're going to be talking about today is about how our characters are going to be breaking, or at least start to break, the cycle inside Blood of the Dead. But if you guys don't know what the cycle is, then on screen right now there will be a card to take you to my video from all the way back in Revelations explaining exactly what the cycle is and how it works. Or you could also just know that the cycle is a bad thing and our characters desperately want to break it. Also, a lot of other people have already made videos and Reddit posts talking about this exact same theory, but my problem with all of them is that they never really explain the how or why this is happening. It's just kind of vague and I don't like it all that much, but nonetheless I do want you guys to understand that I'm not the first one to come up with this theory, and really it's a common theory to exist right now, especially after everything we've seen inside the intro. But of course I'm going to be trying doing that different and explain exactly the why and the how this is all happening, and of course why we're breaking the cycle in the first place. But of course now I'm just going to get past this intro. Let's actually get into the big chunk of this video, that being the theory. So this theory begins and ends with quote-unquote younger Richtofen, or the Richtofen that we see in the lab before Primus arrives. And this all has to do with the many inconsistencies that we see from the Blood of the Dead intro, comparing that to what we've read in the timeline and seen inside the comics. Now I'll list off a couple of them here, one of them being Richtofen's attitude, because in the comics, Richtofen had a smile that reached from ear to ear almost always. It was a bit creepy seeing Richtofen that happy, but now inside the intro cutscene, it seems like he's very anxious and even annoyed and upset, and this is very different from what we see in the comics, and it is something that really caught my attention the first time we ever watched this, or I ever watched this. Another one is where Primus arrived at, because in the comics they teleported right into the room where the lab was, but in the intro cutscene they teleport into the wall of Mob of the Dead where you normally get the spoon while you are playing the map, and this is not a big difference, but it is a difference nonetheless. And another one is when our characters arrived, because in the comics, when Primus arrived, the younger version of Richtofen says right on time, but in the cutscene he says, "You're late," which again, a subtle change, but a change nonetheless. And there are many more inconsistencies that I could name for a while. I think I've counted up to 7 in total, which is very strange, but I'm not going to bore you with showing you all the other inconsistencies. But you have to remember, we're not the only ones who realize this, because Richtofen, well, at least the Richtofen with the rest of Primus, also realized that there are a lot of things off.
They should be closer to the lab. No matter. Doctor, is there a problem? You'll be needing this. The Chronorium. But I've already read it. Read it again.
But the point is that this is different from what we saw inside the comics and even saw inside the zombies timeline. But what does this prove? Well, nothing just yet, because I didn't mention one of the biggest problems with the quote-unquote younger Richtofen. And that's that he's missing something that he really shouldn't be missing, and that's none other than the blood vials. And this is huge, because why in the world would Richtofen not have his blood vials on him? Just think about it. Every single time we've seen Richtofen in the past, every single time, I kid you not, in the comics, in the cutscenes, in the game, every other time we've seen Primus Richtofen, he's had the blood vials, except for 2 special occasions that I'll get to in a little bit. And especially, why would he leave this insurance plan behind? It just makes no sense. This is just such a rare thing to see inside zombies. And there's only 3 different reasons why I think he wouldn't have his blood vials on them. One being that he doesn't have them yet, so this would be before he's got his blood vials. Or 2, he took them off, which, there has to be a really good reason for this, but I find this one extremely doubtful that he would just take them off randomly. And 3, of course, that he's already used them. I think we can eliminate number 2 right away because we have no reason to think that he would just take off the blood vials. I mean, I can't think of a single reason. I mean, they had to show us some sort of reasoning by now, but I just find it very, very doubtful. But for the other 2, let's think about the only times either of these things could have happened. If you think about the only other times we've seen Richtofen without his blood vials was on 2 different occasions. One being any time before June 4th, 1914, because this is the date that Richtofen went back in time and gave himself the blood vials. Any time before this, except if you go too far back, I mean any time during Richtofen's lifetime before this, it's impossible for him to have the blood vials because his future self hadn't went back in time and gave him the blood vials. And the other time we've seen Richtofen without the blood vials was in the outro to Revelations. In the outro to Revelations, we see him in his Crusader uniform thing, or whatever you want to call it, and he does not have his blood vials on him, or at least we can't see them. And looking at these 2 options, it becomes pretty clear which one is much more likely. And surprise, surprise, it's the one post-Revelation. And this would have some big implications because it would mean that the Richtofen we see in the intro to Blood of the Dead is most likely the Richtofen from post-Revelations, or maybe even post-Great War, the Great War that we saw in Revelations outro cutscene. And this it's just a little crazy, and also it would make perfect sense because this Richtofen has completed the cycle and now he is free of it, and now he has the freedom to go out of the cycle and try to break the cycle himself. And this looks like exactly what he's doing, because think about what happened. The timeline changed, and even the Chronorium, what existed inside the Chronorium, changed when he was there. This is the Richtofen post-Revelations. It would again make sense why the timeline is now changing, because this is someone who shouldn't be a part of the cycle, and now that he's inserted himself into the cycle, he is now has the ability to change the timeline / Chronorium, and this is absolutely huge. And I stressed this in my video from the other day that the Chronorium was something that we thought was sacred that wouldn't change. I mean, we were always aware that the Chronorium can change based on who looks at it, but it just would change on what it would show you. It wouldn't actually change the timeline. So this would be the very first time that we've ever seen this happen, and a perfect explanation for this is because something outside of the cycle is actually affecting it. And this is why I say that in Blood of the Dead that we are going to see at least the very start of the breaking of the cycle inside Blood of the Dead, and I honestly just cannot wait for it. But this leaves us off with a couple questions. I want to bring these to you because I know I'm already done with the theory, and to, of course, tell me what you guys think about the theory and all that good stuff, but there's a couple questions I want to pose to you guys because if this theory is true, it leaves us with these 3 pretty interesting questions. And the first one is, what happened to the younger Richtofen? Because we know the younger Richtofen that was supposed to be there, because we have post-Revelations Richtofen there, but the younger version of Richtofen was supposed to be there. So what exactly happened to him? Did he just get shown off some other way by post-Revelations Richtofen? Did he tell him to go somewhere else, or just what happened? Maybe because of our characters being late, maybe that has something to do with it. I just don't know. But another thing is that where did this post-Revelations Richtofen go after he left Primus? Because in the normal timeline, Richtofen goes from the blood vial, well, after giving his future self the blood vials for the other characters, he would go to Morgue City to go get the summoning key. So is this post-Revelations Richtofen still going to go get the summoning key, or what exactly is he doing? We're just not sure. And the last question I want to pose to you guys is that, is this going to end the story? Will breaking the cycle end the story? Would that be our huge conclusion, and it's just going to finish off all inside Blood of the Dead, or whenever they finish off breaking the cycle? Personally, I just want to put my own opinion here because I do want to share it with you guys. I do not think we are going to see the end of the storyline inside this map at all, and mainly because of a couple things. I'm going to make a different video focusing on this entirely, but I want to share with you guys a little thing that you guys may have forgotten. And this is a loading screen, or a remade loading screen for Die Rise. And as you guys can see, there's something there, because this is something we've noticed for a while now, but we never understood exactly what was happening here. But at the top left of the screen, we see 3 of the Primus characters, that being Takeo, Dempsey, and Nikolai, but then we see one Ultimus character, that being Ultimus Richtofen, which is very strange to see. But as we all know, we're also getting a map classified that we're going to be playing as the Ultimus characters, so I do imagine that this story will be continued. Maybe we are not going to be exactly successful, or maybe this is going to be the start of breaking the cycle inside Blood of the Dead, and then we're going to continue, and maybe when we break the cycle, the story will end, or maybe it'll still continue. We're just not sure. Personally, I hope that's not the case, that we'll ever see an end to the story, but I mean, that's just me. But regardless, that's all I really have to say for you guys. Well, say for you guys, it doesn't make sense, but say right here. Again, I'd love to hear what you guys think about any of this. All the 3 questions I said at the end, the theory itself, do you agree, disagree, did I make a mistake somewhere, all that good stuff, leave those all down in the comments. But comments. But if you guys did enjoy the video and you do want to see more of this, then go ahead, do all the normal YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, bell, share, and especially bell. But I'm gonna go, and I'll catch you guys in my next stream or video.